Because you might have an outcome that you want and a result that you're after. But what we need to do, the way we bridge the chasm between those two is a bridge. And that bridge is get a plan. Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Chris Cooper's back with us this week. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to last week's episode, we talked all about burnout in the green industry. It's something that we've both experienced, and a lot of people in this industry experience this. And we go deep into some of the drivers for that and how to get around that and how to get yourself in a more of a peace, joy, and fulfillment mindset. So I've got Chris back on today, and we're going to talk about the compass. This is a framework he has in his coaching program. And I want to dive in deep with him with this because it's got some amazing concepts that are built into this that could really help you as a green industry owner. So Chris, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So let's just dive right into this. So tell us about the compass, how you came up with it, and what does it represent for us here in the green industry?
So, Vine and compass, the compass represents your true north and where you need to be heading, right? So you always have to keep your eye on where you're going, not where you've been. And that's that part of it. Vine is about vine as it relates to fruits of the spirit, right? Apart from the vine, we can't do anything. And that vine represents my faith. My framework that I've got that I kind of take people through and understand, I do standard green industry consulting for people that are trying to solve specific issues. But for that guy that is burning out, knows it could be better, but doesn't have any idea where to turn, I've got a framework that we can kind of follow. And it's the compass and the map and then the becoming, which I feel like that name will evolve, but the becoming is good for now because you're going to become somebody different if you start being intentional about things. But it made me that feels very much like the original Highlander movie, right? The Becoming. There can be only one. I think it was the Quickening is what it was. So
okay,
whole other story. Like, I believe you.
Awesome. No, that's good. And it's important that we have frameworks. Frameworks are important in our minds to know there's a step 1, step 2, step 3, or things that are priorities to us. So when it comes to the framework here, what I love is that you talk about, financial clarity and time freedom. You talk about the becoming with growth and leadership, and then faith is the anchor. Could you walk us through those different components and give us a little taste of how each one of those fits into our businesses, or at least how it could?
Yeah. The compass is the measure of where you're going. And in business, that's the budget. It's the foundation of everything that's going on financially. It's the thing that gets neglected a very large majority of the time when the bullets are flying in the spring and the fall, especially, right? And so we like to get that budget under control, whether you're using a software for it or a spreadsheet or you're working closely with somebody with an accounting background. We are not accountants in this industry. Right? We don't want to be accountants in this industry. If we liked brain wiring like that, we'd have probably done something different with our lives, right? So, but here we are. So we've got the compass. That's the financial clarity portion of it. The map is about your schedule and mapping out where you're going, right? So the compass tells you where you're going. The map tells you how to get there, right? So you might be asking, well, why do you start there instead of faith? Because you got to have faith to step out on a lot of that stuff, right? But I can't hear the truth through financial noise as an owner.
Yeah.
And whether it's the world or my own stuff that I've saddled myself with, I can't hear the truth through that. I got to quiet that noise. It's just like creativity, right? So if the money's a mess, the mind probably is too. So the compass gives you that stability first. And I have witnessed firsthand people that finally get their budgets in order. It's like this weight lifts visibly from their shoulders in the middle of all that, because it's like my grandfather always said, it's never as bad as you think it is, but it's never as good as you think it is, right? And that's true. We have ourselves convinced that things are worse, so bad, so terrible. So we avoid it, right? It's unpleasant. We're afraid. Fear comes into play, right? You get that budget set aside, good, bad, or indifferent. Now you know.
Yes.
And there's peace in knowing. I mean,
Mm.
what do they say in the recovery rooms? Just like knowing and admitting that there's a problem is the first step to correcting the problem.
Yep.
Now
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Yep. It's so true. So I know, a lot of business owners, including myself in the early years, I would, as far as budget goes, I'd put a blindfold on. I just hit it as hard as I could. And by the end of the year, I'd be like, let's see if it's red or black. Like just go, 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 go. Because you know what I kept running into, Chris, is this problem where I would set a budget in January, kind of like my New Year's resolution, right? In January. And then everything would be working as long as I was getting deposits for projects. And we're in Pennsylvania, so it's snowy and all that. But as soon as my numbers, if I needed to hit, I don't know, whatever the number is for the year, and I looked at my segment for that 12-month span, I'm like, I need to make 100,000 this month. And I didn't. I'm like, oh crap, now what? And then next month I'd make 200, like, great. And then all of a sudden 3 months later, I didn't make anything. And I'm like, what? Right. And it was just because we're not in we don't build widgets. We're not on a production line.
Yep.
We have contracts in the outdoor living world. So when it comes to like constant reoccurring revenue, so it was always it was like this big idea of the budget, but the budget was, why even do it, Chris? Why even do it? Because you know what? The chance of that actually being true is not very good. So why stress over it? So I'd rather just shut my eyes, put that blindfold on, and just go wide open,
Right.
and
It's
then hope like
fear,
hell at the end of the year. It's huge fear,
right?
and but that's the only way I learned how to do it, because I didn't have anybody to coach me through it. I didn't have
I mean,
anybody to say, look, here's
that's the
accountability you
biggest
need.
emotional block around facing finances, whether it's in business or even your personal life, right? Remember, equally yoked, right? You'll find
Mm,
shades of your personal life in your business life and
mm,
vice versa. We all talk a good game about leaving your problems at the door, whatever. It's impossible. You
mm.
take one, you got the other, right? Life is life, even if you have a business, right?
Yep,
But that fear of exposure, people find out, right?
yep,
Now they'll find out. I ran into this a lot at Synced Up working on budgets with people. They would be very hesitant to dive into the budgets because numbers don't lie,
yep.
right?
Yeah,
So you can
it's true.
talk a good game, but then you lay the numbers out and the numbers are what they are. And a lot of people, when they've been shooting from the hip like you were, I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going
Yep,
to hustle and grind to just try and stay ahead of it, right? But, facing the truth of what's to come is way less painful than this thing that we're going through at the beginning. Facing the truth is rarely as painful as living in avoidance.
yep.
I remember this as a young kid. If you spent more time, doing the thing instead of trying to get out of the thing would be done. And it's
Oh yeah.
just like that.
Yep, yep,
We spend all this time avoiding, and then we're in a financial bind. We're avoiding, our vendors, and we're avoiding, conversations with people, and we're avoiding unpleasant conversations with clients that we've pushed aside because we're trying to get this other stuff done because it'll pay faster. It's just less painful to be straight up with people.
it's true. It is so true. And when it comes to fear, the thing that starves fear to death is clarity. What
Yes.
drives fear is fogginess, right? So a budget gives you clarity. Now it might be scary, right? You might have
Yeah.
to trim some things, or you might
But
have
now
to change some things, but now you know is the point, right?
Yeah.
It's the not knowing that makes it so stressful and burns us out
Yeah.
as owners, right? So
If.
what ifs exactly? But if you're like, look, a budget is so important in the sense that, look, this is our target for the year. And each month, each week, each day, whatever your cadence is, you're checking it with your team ideally and looking at what it takes to keep us on track. And some years you're going to hit that target, and some years you're going to surpass that target, and some years you're going to come short on that target. But it's okay, because you had a target, is the point. It's not about perfection here. It's about having clarity, because clarity builds confidence, and confidence moves mountains, right? So
Well,
it's the
yeah.
same concept.
It is absolutely the same concept. And
Yep.
really, if you drill it down, you just look at it job for job,
Yep.
right? I'm going to make sure every job goes as well as it can from beginning to end.
Yep.
And so then the week becomes the totality of those jobs, and the month becomes the totality of the weeks, and then that adds up to the year. And
Exactly.
if that's how you are effective at working your plan from before, where you just tried to stay in front of it, right?
Mhm.
If you've got good systems in place, which helps with scaling, you'll know every
Mhm.
so many dollars that you sell, you'll have to add another person, so on and so forth. Now it's no longer stressful. It no longer seems chaotic.
That's
You
right.
know, you worked in restaurants before, so have I, right?
Mhm.
It gets chaotic sometimes, and it's really our brain that is making it chaotic. You just take a deep breath and you say, hey, one task at a time. Let me follow a process here.
Right.
and you get from beginning to end. And you can be a server so deep in the weeds, you think you'll never get out, and you'll get
That's
out of
right.
it.
Oh
No
yeah.
crying
Yep.
in the server station.
That's step by step, baby. Just keep doing the next
Right.
right
All
thing.
the steps, one step at a time.
One next right thing. You don't see the whole path. You don't see even if you
Oh,
don't have the destination in mind, just do the next right thing.
I love it. Yes. Just
It's gonna
forward movement, even if it's incremental.
That's right. Even if it's exactly very, very small, just do the next right thing. I know, like I'd mentioned on one of the other episodes about procrastination. That's what I kept getting stuck on it. I'd have a big list of things. I'd have a goal. I'd have it set. I know what I want to get to, but kept trying to figure out, Chris, why did I not want to do it? I knew what I had to do. I knew
You're a
exactly what I needed
failure.
to get it done. Well, that's some of it, right? And I get stuck in the procrastination side. I'm like, but fail from what? Or maybe it is a big goal or whatever it might be. And I kept procrastinating and I knew it. And I even time blocked, but I'd move my time block Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe I'll feel like doing it tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
Monday, right? And you keep moving them out. You're like, I don't have to do it now, but I
That
keep
kind of defeats the purpose of time blocking.
no, but I was still time blocking. So technically,
Okay.
anyway, that was a way to work the system. But what I realized, dude, what I've realized, and as I'm maturing and growing wiser, is that when I'm procrastinating, there's a fear of something. Maybe it is the fear of failure. Maybe it's the fear of being an imposter. Maybe it's the fear of losing money. Maybe it's the fear of trying something new. Could be a lot of things. But what I found, the way that I've broken through procrastination is that I realize procrastination equals a lack of clarity for me, a clarity of why and a clarity of what to do next. And then who needs to be involved. Like it's a lack of clarity around those things. So I know it's a clarity problem. So if I'm sitting here at my desk and I am stuck, and it happens still to today, I'm like, I procrastinate something I know it needs to be done. And I
Right.
don't like to be that last minute guy that just shows up and like, oh, I can just get this done. Cause I will always get it done, but I don't like to do it that way. So I've learned how to trick and hijack my brain. And I'm like, all right, what do I need clarity around? I'm stuck because I need clarity around something. So I just ask better questions. I
Yeah.
ask better questions and I say, what do I need clarity around?
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, okay, I need clarity around how I'm going to promote this, whatever it might be, or how I'm going to become more efficient with my budget or my teams or whatever it might be. Then I'm like, okay, who do I need to talk to or what do I need to read or research in order to figure that out? Because you know how it is. Once you have clarity, you know why, but once you have clarity around how to do it, it's just like stepping on stepping stones. Then like
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
absolutely.
done.
Absolutely. And
But when the
again,
path
what
isn't
you're
clear,
doing there, and
yeah,
it's come up a couple of times here over these last few episodes, is that you are setting a plan in place. You are setting a goal in mind that you want to get to in the future. And you're absolutely right. When you have that in mind, you're able to say, well, what is it going to take to get there? A, B, C, and D. So you lay all those out. And then guess what? You step on those stepping stones, A, B,
yep,
C, D. You get there.
right. That's right.
You know, that
Yep.
clarity, I love the way that you present that. I think that is absolutely right.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something I've learned the hard way. The hard
Amen.
way. Because you might have an outcome that you want and a result that you're after, but what we need to do, the way we bridge the chasm between those two is a bridge. And that bridge is get a plan, gap. It's the
Yeah.
gap between those two, right? So we got to get a plan. And the way that happens is by doing the research, becoming clear, because the more clarity you have, the more confidence you'll build. And then you'll be able to just move through that. And you look back and be like, why did that take me so darn long to figure out? I mean, it really isn't that difficult. So I'd love to wrap this episode up in how faith anchors it all. I'd love to hear how faith anchors it for you,
For sure.
specifically in your life and in this new endeavor.
Well, we talked about freedom being clarity. Some of that clarity is knowing who you are and what's yours to carry. So 10 years ago, for example, I thought it was money, autonomy, right? Being my own boss. That was what I was aspiring to, but now it's peace and purpose, right? The older I get, the simpler it gets. And that's just a fact. And I love that too, right? Fewer moving parts, but more meaning. That's what I'm looking for in my life. I don't want all the noise. I want the little bits of noise that I do have to be profound, right? So, I just had to come to terms with, I said earlier, despite success, I was miserable. And there's a lot of guys that they feel trapped once they've, made it.
Yep.
Because they built a machine that runs on their attention. That's what's happening there, right? So they bought themselves a job with nicer problems. And that's kind of what I figured out. I was like, well, gosh, honestly, my job as an account manager, not that different from my job as a crew leader. I still have roughly the same goals in mind and just some different tasks to get to that point. But that's what sticks so many guys in this industry. And where I found myself years ago when I was self-employed, you find yourself in a place where you feel like it can't run without you. And sometimes it can't, right?
Yep.
And if your business can't run without your anxiety, you are not free. You're financed, right? So that's it. And that was kind of where I got to that point in my life. I realized that the business had started, like my life was to serve the business,
Mm.
right? And I finally realized that the business had started serving my life or the job at hand or what I was doing. Again, fairly recently, it's that first time that you shut the laptop at 5 p.m. and you don't feel guilty or like you didn't get something done. My systems were running, my team was winning, but this time my mind was still.
That's right.
Right. And that quiet felt weird at first, but it was proof that I had finally built some measure of this new definition of success in my mind. Right.
Yeah.
Like I always felt like I knew what success was when I was younger. And now my definition of success is much different. It's much different. It's way more grounded in faith and family and less in stuff.
Yeah. So how did you, I think that's a very interesting topic here, listeners, is this idea when you go from constantly so many things going on to focusing down on the things that truly matter with purpose and conviction and all of that, and everything gets slower. So Chris, how did you manage that from that chaos to the slowness? How did you manage that with your soul still stuck on, at least mine was, so stuck on being busy all the time? And when you aren't and you have free time to actually think and work it out and be very purposeful, how did you make that transition? Because it feels like at times you're lazy or you're not doing enough or you're not engaged enough because you're not out there physically putting fires out constantly. All those needs and demands of your life become shut down to a point where you only have maybe 5 or 10% of them, not 110% of them. How did you make that transition to you could still feel peace without having to have all the chaos around you?
Well, I mean, her life aside, what you're talking about there is how we've been wired to think in this business that if you're not busy, somehow you're not accomplishing things. But what you
Yeah.
also described was kind of why we get to be self employed to begin with, so that someday we don't have to work as hard, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why all of a sudden are we, resisting that? Well, we're resisting it because here in the United States, we're taught that, 50 hours a week is about the norm, right?
Mm.
And you're lucky if you get more than 2 weeks of vacation. And it's sad
Yeah.
in some ways. But, we've convinced ourselves that that busyness is our worth. And our worth does not come from our works or our busyness, right? Or our
That's right.
busyness or our works, right?
Yeah.
Faith
Yeah.
without works or works without faith are dead, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Kind of brings us to the last part of that, doesn't it? Right?
It does. And that thing that I've learned here, and it's really shifted everything for in business for me, is we talked about purpose many times in these episodes together. And, it is so important for us to spend the time to dig deep and figure out what our purpose is. Why did God put us here? What are the gifts that He's given us? What are we supposed to share? All of those things, right? And it wasn't until I stopped worshiping money and fame and success and I started to focus on a transcendent cause, something to serve so much bigger than myself that I couldn't even get my hands around what it meant. And that took some time to get used to the idea because I'm so used to doing what they teach us to do in business and make lots of money, become famous and whatever. Like my point is those things will only ever leave you empty or fill you for a very short moment. But if you truly, listeners, if you truly want your heart full each and every day, the joy, the peace, all the fruits, right? If you want all of those things, a transcendent cause to serve something bigger than yourself and your business is the only way to do that.
Mhm.
And for me, it's my Lord Jesus Christ. And I know it is for you as well, brother. And I say that because we can make all the money we possibly want in this world. We can do whatever we want, travel the world, buy the yachts, do all that stuff, but nothing will come close to the peace and joy and everlasting fulfillment you'll feel in serving something larger than yourself.
That's true. It's absolutely true. It's why it's kind of the second part of, it's the third part of the three things in the business, but it's really two parts. One is structure, right? Structure
Wow.
keeps you steady, and that's fine. But faith keeps you soft, right? Like one builds the walls, structure, the other fills the house. So hustle can get you movement. We've talked about that a lot in these few episodes, but only
Yep.
faith and structure together give you meaning.
Yes.
That's what we're all really dying for. We
Yep.
sit back at the end of the day, we can think that we're looking for all this stuff. We're looking for meaning. We're looking
Right.
for purpose.
That's right.
And our purpose is beyond this earth, man.
That's right. And with that, Chris, I appreciate you, listeners. Don't miss the next episode. We're going to wrap up this 4-part series, and Chris is going to drop some incredible nuggets for you. What if you could close 75% of your projects without chasing, convincing, or dropping your price? That's not a dream. That's the mission. Mission 75. Here at Yes Express Sales Academy, we are spearheading a bold shift to help outdoor living contractors sell with confidence, not desperation. Because let's be real, you've been told to just give them a good price and hope for the best. You've been trained to beg for work and give away your time and compete with contractors who don't even play at your level. That ends now. I wrote the Core 10 Sales Playbook because it's the system I desperately needed 20 years ago. It's built for real-world, design-build contractors, not guys in suits. Inside, I'll show you how to qualify leads in minutes, speak to emotion, not features, cut confusion and eliminate ghosting, lead the sales call with calm authority, and close premium jobs without flinching. That book drops in January 2026. Check out the show notes to get on the list to be the first in line to grab your copy of the Core 10 Sales Playbook before they're gone. This isn't about working harder, it's about selling smarter, and it starts now. Let's raise the standard together.